Hey, welcome everybody to this afternoon's live Q&A coaching call. I hope everybody is safe and sound. I know the East Coast is getting pretty much trounced with tons of snow right now. So hopefully you are in a nice, safe, warm spot and you're ready to dive into some great information here. I've got my very, very good friend Jamel Gibbs with me. Jamel, say hello to everybody. We've got some good people on here, and I told them about all the content you're going to be sharing.
Hey everybody, how's everything today? Jason, it's a pleasure to be on this call. I appreciate you having me, and yeah, we're getting pounded right now with a bunch of snow.
Right.
But you know what? I'm from Brooklyn, so I know exactly how to work through this snow, and I'm located in Pennsylvania, and the weather is pretty much the same.
Right.
In both places. So I'm only 2 hours away from the city. So, but yeah, we're getting pounded right now with this snow. So this gives us a great opportunity to be on the phone right now, be on this training, and take this day to learn and to take action.
Absolutely, absolutely. And before we get everything going, Jamel. Real quick, if everybody, I've turned everything over to Jamel's page for everybody to take a look. If you could also chime in, let us know that the sound quality is good for you and that you could see us and hear us just fine. If you could just type in yes, or if you could type in no, that would be great. I just want to make sure everybody could see and hear us loud and clear. And yes, we are recording, so you will be able to get a copy of this probably either later today or tomorrow, depending basically on how long we go, because we are going to be answering some questions at the end. Now, for those of you that may have, we had a coaching call lined up with Jamel in December. Jamel was unable to attend, but it was for very, very good reasons. Jamel just welcomed in a new baby into his family, and I was extremely excited about it. Obviously, didn't want to say, no, you need to do the coaching call with us. Don't worry about your wife. So congratulations, Jamel, and
thank you.
No problem. Glad you have a very safe and healthy baby with you guys, and she's experiencing her new winter storm.
Absolutely. Her name is Janelle.
Oh, I like that.
It's kind of close to Jamel. My wife thought, because we have two other girls.
Right.
And, I have an 8-year-old who's going to be 9, and I'm kind of freaking out about that. She's going to be 9 years old this year. I can't believe it. But then we have a 4-year-old who's going to be 5 this year. And we have Janelle. She's just about 2 months old. Actually, Monday she'll be 8 weeks. And honestly, man, it's we tried for the boy. I don't know what it is with my wife and I, but we're just throwing out girls. And you know what? It's a beautiful thing. So this was going to be our last try. So she decided that since we didn't have the boy, let's name the baby Janelle, because it's close to my name. So
there you go.
I appreciated that, and I'm happy either way. I have,
of course,
healthy kids, and I love them all. So.
Yeah, definitely. No, that's awesome, man. And no, I'm very happy for you guys, and
thanks, man.
glad everything went well.
Yep.
So, well, Jamel, without further ado, I'll just kind of turn everything over to you. And guys, again, depending on time at the end, and hopefully we don't lose Jamel. So he was worried about a possible power outage. So if something does happen, we'll try and get things back up. But if not, we'll just try and reschedule. But depending on all that, we'll kind of base that at the end on question and answers for you guys. So Jamel, I'll turn it over to you, buddy, and let you do your thing.
Sounds good, my man. Thank you so much for having me once again.
You.
And thank you guys. Thank you guys for joining us today. I know there's a ton of other things you could be doing right now, but guess what? You've chosen to be here with us, I'm excited to teach you some new stuff that I've actually been, not necessarily new in my personal business, but it may be new to you, that I've been implementing in a new market over the past, I want to say 3 weeks or so. This is something I actually came up with over the past couple of days. I thought this would be more exciting than talking about your average how to get a deal, how to close a deal in 30 days type of stuff. Rather than showing you that type of stuff, what I'm going to do is show you that and how to actually tap into red hot real estate markets, how to find red hot cash buyers, and also how to close no-brainer deals within the next 3 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks, 21 days. And here's the best part, how to do it all on autopilot, okay? Now, I know for some of you new investors on the call right now, you may be thinking like, this guy is absolutely crazy. There's no way I can actually do that. But the truth is you can. And I'm actually, I'm going to show you proof of it throughout this training call. Now, I started in a couple of different markets a few weeks ago, and I thought it would be good for me to document what I've actually done in those markets and then kind of show it to you on this training. So I hope you have a pen, a piece of paper. I hope you're going to take notes, and I hope you're going to implement, more importantly, because I can tell you how to invest in real estate until I'm blue in the face. But if you don't take this information and actually implement it, then it's going to do you no good. It's not going to help you one way or another. So you need to not only pay attention to this information, but you also need to take action, because massive action drives massive success. And that's something I learned early on in my real estate investing days. So, I started this business, just to kind of tell you a little bit about myself. I started this business back in 2002. Okay. I used to spot trade currency on Wall Street fresh out of high school. And after 9/11, I was actually down there that day and experienced that whole traumatic, scenery. But right after 9/11, I decided that I wanted to give real estate a shot. And I ended up becoming a licensed real estate agent, became a licensed real estate broker. Shortly after, I'm talking within a few months, I actually started looking into real estate investing. I used to see the Carlton Sheets commercials and, some of the late night infomercials, and decided that, I can do that too. So I gave it a shot, and it took me 13 months to get my first deal. A lot of it was because I never actually invested into a program to help me speed up the process. I learned everything I know through trial and error. But ended up closing my first deal after about 13 months in a business. And I only made $1,500 on that first deal. But, it was enough for me to know that I can scale in this business and I can actually make money. Okay. Within 6 months after my first $1,500 check, I closed my first deal. It was $1 million deal it was $1 million house, I should say, that I flipped. And I made $48,000 on that deal. Now, that's not too shabby for a young kid who grew up in the projects at 21, 22 years old, bringing home a check for $48,000. that was something it changed my life.
Absolutely.
And then after that, it was all history. But right now, fast forward to today, I'm actually currently investing in 8 different markets. And I'm going to show you the formula that I use in order to tap into these markets. I'm from Brooklyn, New York, but I live in Pennsylvania right now. I used to be a licensed broker, okay, but I honestly, I haven't used my license since 2006. I just find that I make far more money investing in real estate rather than, selling it for homeowners. And, ultimately, I'm just a regular guy. I love to spend time with my family. I love to help people, and I love to make a lot of money. And who doesn't? So that's just a little bit about me. Did you want to add anything, Jason?
No, I think the other thing, and guys, we'll be getting into a ton of stuff here, but the one thing, again, we're recording this, but the best that I've seen, the way I learn, is making sure, like, especially since this is being recorded, I would jot down, especially some great notes. But if you find something that you really are like, wow, that's awesome, make sure you jot it down. So when the recording comes out, you could go over it and over it and over it again, and you could put together a plan, implement it. And, that's the great thing about these training calls that we put together. And, I met Jamel through another individual in our space by the name of Josh Cantwell. We got introduced by doing Jamel and I were on an all-day live training webinar, and Jamel was before me. I went after Jamel, and then Jamel and I actually started speaking to one another shortly after the webinar was over. We had a lot of the same things that we have in common, and we just kind of hit it off. And Jamel's a great guy. He's been a great support to us. I wanted to do this because Jamel is the real deal. He's doing deals, and I believe he's one of the few out there that's extremely helpful to people and helping them get to where they want to be. And I can't say enough good things about Jamel, and you guys are going to be in for a really good treat here. So yeah, Jamel, I appreciate it again, but if you need anything from me here, I'm just on the sidelines, just listening like everybody else.
Sounds good, man. I'm getting a little teary-eyed over
Oh, jeez. Nice.
No, but one other thing I wanted to add. This is a live call, and I am working from home today. Even though I'm in my office, my kids are home as well because there's a blizzard. So if you hear my kids in the back, just understand that's just the way it is. Okay.
No problem.
So let's go ahead and move forward. So on this training, okay, what I wanted to do, and I was just telling Jason that I just kind of put this presentation together because I wanted to show you guys what's actually working for me, right? What am I doing right now? What's the newest, hottest thing that I'm doing right now that's actually working? And I actually wanted to share that with you. So on this training, we're going to talk about the 2 new markets that I've tested. My team and I, we've tested 2 new markets for the past 3 weeks, I want to say. How we set up shop in the winning market, the personnel positions that were fulfilled in order to automate this whole process. Okay, the criteria for finding the most responsive sellers in those markets, and how it all works. So I'm going to take you through the entire process on what to do. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump right in. So over the past few weeks, I've tested 2 new markets. I've tested the Houston market and the Boston market. Okay. And I'm going to show you how we tested these markets in just a minute. But basically, we threw out some feelers in the market on Craigslist. Okay, and I'm going to show you the exact ad that I use in order to feel the market out on Craigslist. In order to feel a market out, what I typically do is I'll put an ad on Craigslist and see what the response rate to that ad is going to be. Okay, so in this particular case, Boston was the winner. All right. In Houston, we had 3 to 4 buyers contact us within the first day. Okay, probably a little less. I think it was more like 2 or 3 buyers contacted us within the first day to this particular ad that I'm going to show you in a minute. In Boston, we had 15 buyers. I think it was actually more like 15 to 20 buyers contacted us. So that clearly told me that, Boston is probably going to be the market that we want to focus on moving forward. Now, looking at the ad, I actually took a screenshot of the ad from my Craigslist back office. You can see it was posted 24 days ago. It was updated 16 days ago. But basically, it says, attention investors must sell these properties. Houston, Texas. Now, I didn't know. We used the same exact ad in Boston, okay? Here's the thing, though. We basically, this is called a ghost ad, all right? I actually had properties for sale in Houston, but I decided to post those same properties up for sale in Boston as well to kind of fill the market out. Those 6 properties I did not close, but just know that they were available at one point. Now, if you don't have properties for sale, then you don't need to be as specific. But this is basically called a ghost ad. And what you're looking to do is drive buyers to your ad in order to start building your buyers list or fill the market out. So it basically says, hello, I have 6 properties in Houston, Texas for sale. Some of these properties are in fair condition and others need a little more work. I'm selling these properties individually and not as a package. Now, at that time, those particular properties, I believe 2 of them really didn't need a lot of work, and the other 4 needed some work. So I was kind of generic with the information right there. But they are all priced well below market value. If you are serious and you want to get more information on these properties, then please contact me by replying to this email. Now, there's 2 different ways that you could actually handle this. You can have them reply to this email, and you can also have them visit a website. It depends on the angle that you want to take. Know this, right now in Craigslist, you cannot place image ads anymore. So you can't even place a link to go to your website. You can add it in the text field, but then they would have to copy and paste that link into the web browser in order to go to your website. You can't click from Craigslist anymore to go directly to your website. Ask me why, I can't give you the answer. It started back in, I want to say, I noticed this back in like October, because we placed maybe 50 to 60 Craigslist ads per day. But we used to be able to, basically highlight an image ad, and it would drive the buyers directly to, or even the sellers directly to our website. Let me just give you an example of that. Let me ask you this, Josh. I just called you Josh. Sorry about that. Let me ask you this, Jason. I'm thinking about Josh Cantwell. That's why, because you mentioned him earlier.
No problem.
But let me ask you this: when we go to when I get out of this presentation here, could you see like my website and stuff like that?
Yeah. Yep. I can see it.
Okay. Perfect. Do I need to blow it up a little bit?
No, it looks fine.
All right. Perfect. So I'm just gonna go to Craigslist real quick and show you an example of one of the ads that I usually would place. And actually, this is Amanda's job, but so when I go to Craigslist, I'm going to go to my account real quick, and you can see we place ads, all the time. But let me just give you an example. So let's just click on this ad here, handyman specials for sale. So this is an example of the image ad that I placed. These are actual properties that I've actually closed that's on this particular ad. But I always added the website there as well because I want to drive traffic. At one point in time, even a week ago, I was able to click on this ad and it would take me to my buyer's website. Let me just show you my buyer's website quickly. So it would end up here, basically, okay? Or if I wanted to place a seller's ad, it would end up on my seller's site. And this is all, there's going to be a video that pops up. It's a TV commercial that actually run in my area. But this would, when I click on the Craigslist ad, it would normally bring me to my websites. Okay, so that was my point in showing you that. But as of this day and age, you cannot do that anymore. So your buyers would have to either reply to the email or copy and paste the URL link. So in this case, I basically decided that I wanted them to reply to the email, and I'll gather their information that way. Okay?
Hey, Jamel?
And there are some benefits to doing it that way as well. You were going to say something?
Yeah, I don't know if you're going to be covering this on within the next few slides or not, but what is kind of like the vet process that you're doing for people to kind of know, like, you know, what kind of buyers you're finding from Craigslist? You know, like what kind of process are you doing? Because some of those people could be like wholesalers to maybe they have cash buyers of their own, or they could possibly be, you know, cash buyers, like really honestly looking to find some deals.
Well, there is definitely a process to it all. The beautiful part is if they like go to my website, then the website does all the work for me.
Okay.
Okay. I don't want to. I mean, I could if you want me to, but I can tell them where I got the websites. I mean, it's basically a system that I've built myself.
No, but, yeah, it's whatever you want to go to. I didn't mean to catch you off guard.
No problem.
I just wanted to let people know, like, you know, you can get really good buyers off of Craigslist.
Oh yeah.
They're really good. So this is really good information that Jamel is sharing.
Yeah, definitely. Craigslist is, for me, it's a powerhouse for buyers. You know, really, really good buyers on Craigslist. Typically, you know, and I'll cover this stuff later on. But typically, when you're finding buyers on Craigslist, what you want to do is get some basic information out of them to kind of pre-screen them, so to speak. And I actually have someone do that for us. But if you're not in a position to have someone do it for you, there's really only 4 main questions that you wanna know. One of them is what type, and understand, you know, listen to how I'm actually positioning these questions. Okay, because you can position it one way, and a buyer can answer it even if he's a wholesaler, and you would think that he's a real buyer. But if you position it a different way, the way I'm going to show you, it's going to kind of force the information out and tell you if the buyer's a wholesaler or not, without you even asking if they're a wholesaler. Okay? But basically, you want to know 4 main things. You want to know what areas have you recently purchased properties in? Okay? Now, if you say something like, what areas are you purchasing properties in, as opposed to what areas have you recently purchased in, you know, if you took those 2 questions, Jason, and you said to yourself, you know, if you're a buyer and you took those 2 questions and you're a wholesaler, how would you answer that? You know, I'm not putting you on the spot here or anything, but basically, a wholesaler can answer that. You know, he can basically be he doesn't have to be as direct with the information if you say,
right,
what areas are you purchasing properties in? Now, if you're a real deal buyer and you say, where have you recently purchased properties, that buyer should give you forthcoming information and tell you where they've recently purchased a house. If they haven't purchased anything yet, then they should tell you. And, you know, obviously that's going to tell you if they're a real buyer or not. Now, if they're new, but they're looking into purchasing houses, that's kind of different.
Right.
But if they're just a wholesaler and, you know, they're basically, you know, looking for properties or, you know, looking to build relationships, then by you positioning that question almost in a past tense, because you're asking them where they've recently purchased houses, then that should tell you what type of buyer they are. The next question is, what types of properties have you recently purchased in those areas that you've recently purchased in? So what types of properties have you purchased in those areas? So again, you're kind of putting them on a spot you're kind of forcing the information out of them. So what types of properties have you recently purchased? I find this works whether you're focusing on residential or commercial real estate, because you'll find people that want 100-unit apartment buildings. You'll find people that want strip malls. You'll find people who just want single family houses. So this allows you to tap into all of these different channels of real estate and basically position yourself to do all types of deals. So number one, again, what areas have you recently purchased in? What types of properties have you recently purchased in those areas? What price range, what was the average price range of these properties when you purchased them? Okay, so what was the average price range of these properties when you purchased these properties? Okay, so that's question number 3. And then number 4, how fast did it take for you to close these deals? So honestly, those are the 4 market qualifying and cash buyer qualifying questions that I ask in order to determine, number one, I can use those 4 questions to determine a number of things. Number one, I could figure out if the buyer is a real buyer. I can figure out what they're buying, where they're buying, how fast they can close. I can figure out what types of properties I need to be focusing on in those areas. So when I position my marketing, and I'm basically looking for properties for sale, I know exactly what to look for by taking the information from that buyer. Now, here's the key. When you have, let's say, 15 buyers like we had in Boston, all telling you that they wanted, this type of property in this particular area, within this price range, they basically gave you the gold. Rather, you basically skipped the market qualifying process because they gave you all the answers that you needed to know. If you have 10 out of 15 buyers telling you, I'm looking for properties in North Boston, I'm just throwing an area out there. I'm looking within the $200,000 to $300,000 price range. And I'm looking for 3-bedroom, 2-bath properties in those areas because I wanted to do, rehab flips, let's just say. Then now, if 10 people are telling me that, I know exactly what to look for. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So basically, at the end of the day, that's how I kind of screen through the buyers and, have them tell me what I need to be doing in that market in order to make some money in it. So that's basically how I go about doing that. So after we found these buyers, and obviously the second day we found more buyers, third day we found more buyers up until today. But after that was all said and done, we basically set up shop in Boston. Now, how do we set up shop? Basically, I hired some new staff. Okay, I hired 6 new team members to take over that Boston market. Granted, I want to say 3 of them were already on my team. But I'm going to tell you, I said 6 because I want to give you the positions anyway, okay? We set up an online presence, again, through Craigslist and other channels as well. We set up our phone lines. We comb Craigslist for buyers, okay? So that's how we set up shop in Boston. And what I want to do is I actually want to take you through the personnel positions that were fulfilled. Let me just open this up quickly. The personnel positions that were fulfilled. If you guys, I'm going to blow this up for you. Can you see that pretty well, Jason?
Yeah, it looks good.
Perfect. So as you can see, again, phase 1, we kind of went through that already. But the personnel positions we fulfilled. Now, Amanda was already on our marketing team. And what she typically does is she'll place all of our Craigslist ads and free classified ads. She'll order any marketing material we need from my buddy Zach over at Yellow Letters Complete. He's kind of like my secret weapon, to be honest with you. If you contact him, just tell him that you want the criteria that Jamel Gibbs focuses on when it comes to finding motivated sellers, and he'll know exactly what to do. But basically, USLeadsList.com as well. I'm going to share a website with you later. You can actually get a discount from Lance and Terry if you go to a specific page that I'm going to give you later. It's actually on my blog. So listsource.com is another resource that she finds leads through. She manages the bandit sign hangers and orders the bandit signs and things like that. So basically, she's the marketing manager. Then we have a market researcher. Okay. The market researcher, basically what they do is they collect data in the market. So that market researcher is the one who, and her name is Sama, but basically she's the one who speaks to the cash buyers in order to qualify these markets for us. Okay, she inserts the data into our database. She responds to the buyers. She'll set up appointments for our field technicians, as we call them, to go ahead and meet up with these buyers as well. And basically, she builds the rapport that we need in that market. And then she coincides with our marketing manager, Amanda. Okay. Then we have Karen, who used to be a real estate agent, but she works for us now. She's our acquisitions manager. So basically, she's the fronter. She receives all the seller calls. She basically goes through, anytime we put out a new marketing piece, she's the one receiving all the calls. She makes all the offers over the phone. Karen, Sama, and Amanda were already on our team. She makes the offers over the phone. She sends the info to the agent as well. Now, here's the thing with Boston, because it's a new market. I've never personally been to Boston myself, but because it's a new market, we had to hire a field agent. And right now, we have 8 people we have to interview because we just sent out a marketing piece last Friday, and Matt, who's my office manager, he's kind of in control of all of this stuff, taking care of it for me. He's basically interviewing 8 people to be our field agent. We placed an ad, and within 5 minutes, we had like 10. We had 10 responses, and 8 of them were actually good. Wow. So, field agent. Field agent will basically inspect the properties for us so that we don't have to go out and look at every single house that we want to put on the contract. So they'll take pictures of the properties. They'll inspect the property. Ideally, a field agent would be a contractor or a house inspector or someone like that. But what we typically do is we'll pay $50 a house, okay, for every qualified house that we send them. Okay, so we'll give them $50 a house plus some gas money because gas is pretty expensive these days. So it's, again, they're taking all the pictures that we need. They're estimating the repairs. They may have to actually meet up with the seller. They're not negotiating or anything like that. It's a basic, let's get in, let's get out, let's move on to the next house type of thing. And then what they do is they take that information and send it over to Matt, who is the negotiation specialist right now. I'm actually going to replace Matt as a negotiation specialist because I like him in the management position to oversee everything. But basically, he is the negotiation specialist as of right now. So what he does is once he receives those properties and that property information from our field agent, he's going to be handling reporting new offers and deals. He's going to follow up on the previous offers. He's going to negotiate. He's going to sign the deals. The way we're signing deals right now is we're using a rubber stamp of my signature. I'm personally, I don't want to be worried about signing documents. So it costs $20 to go down to Staples and get a rubber stamp made of my personal signature. Now, you actually, if you're going to do this, you have to trust the person that you're going to do it with because they can use your signature on anything. But we're basically rubber stamping our contracts, and title companies are okay with it. So, but once Matt negotiates a great deal, we haven't hired this position yet, sales specialist. So he's kind of handling that right now as well. But we're actually in the process of hiring someone within the next week. We have a couple people we have to interview. But the sales specialist is going to negotiate and sell to cash buyers. They're going to get offers accepted, submit offers. They're going to collect earnest money deposits. They're going to blast the properties out to our cash buyers list. They're going to do everything to get the property sold pretty much. And then ultimately, once the property is sold, we're going to send it off to our virtual closing coordinator, her name is Rhonda, and she basically handles getting all our national deals to closing, okay, and basically wiring the funds to the necessary parties, okay. Now, here's the thing. I put together this little section right here. So I just wanted to show you, typically an acquisitions manager can be virtual. A marketing manager can be virtual. Marketing researcher can be virtual. Negotiation specialist can be virtual. Virtual closing coordinator obviously can be virtual. But when it comes to new markets, you can use these same team members all the time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 team members you can use all the time. But when it comes to specific markets, you're going to always want to hire a field agent that's local to the market you're tapping into, and possibly a sales specialist as well. Okay, it must be on the ground. Okay. Does that answer? Do you have any questions about that, Jason, at all?
No. That looked like a really good rundown. Yeah, thanks for sharing that.
Sounds good. So just moving forward, here's the criteria that I use in order to, and if you contacted Zach and you asked, hey, Zach, I was listening to a call, this guy, Jamel Gibbs, and he was telling me that you had a really good search criteria. This is basically the criteria that I use in order to pull responsive seller leads. Number one, they're absentee owned, and I'm going to explain why I focus on. This is just one niche out of many that I focus on, by the way. But if you're going to tap into a new market, it's probably best to start off with, maybe a HUD property, or an absentee owned property, or an REO property. Okay, but for this particular call, we're going to focus on absentee owned properties. Okay, because this, for me, is the most scalable way to, the easiest way to scale your business. So absentee-owned properties. The reason why I focus on absentee-owned properties is because that particular lead source allows you to tap into multiple types of lead sources. So under an absentee-owned property lead source, you're going to have code-violated properties. You're going to have fire-damaged properties. You're going to, not too long ago, I purchased a 3-unit property for $1,000. It was fire damaged. It was code violated. It only needed $60,000 in work, and it was worth $285,000. I got it for $1,000 from the owner. The reason why burnout properties are so great, they're hard to find, but they're really good deals. And the reason why they're really good deals is because the seller of that property is being paid through the insurance company. So anything that they get for that particular property that they're selling is basically gravy. Now, I offered $500 for that property. I got it for $1,000. Okay, and I ended up selling it, within 2 hours, and made like $8,000 on it, just wholesaling it, which is not a bad deal for 2 hours worth of work.
No.
So usually the purchase date is 10 years or earlier. Okay, so in this case, it would be 04. You want the owner to own the property for at least 10 to 15 years. Okay, that tells you that there's a decent amount of equity in that property if they haven't refinanced it at the peak of the market. Okay, the more equity in the property, the better. Okay, the owner date of birth, usually 1935 to 1960. I play around with that number a little bit. I don't always focus on the date of birth. Sometimes I'll take that out. It depends on how many leads are available in that market. Okay. And I'm going to share something with you, as soon as I'm done talking about loan to value. Loan to value 0 to 60%, which means that they have lots of equity in that property, 40% plus equity compared to the comps in that property. Now, going back to the lead source and, the owner date of birth and things of that nature, if you look at a market, if Zach comes back to you and says, hey, so I pulled your area and there's 500 leads available in the whole area, then you might want to tap into another county, okay? You want to give Zach at least 10 zip codes to search from. But you might want to tap into another county if you're limited on leads. The whole point is to see how scalable your business can be. Now, if Zach comes back and says, hey, there's 7,500 absentee owners in your local market according to this criteria, then that tells you that, number one, you can scale up. Number two, you can actually tap into 7,500 leads on a consistent basis. Now, most people on this call are probably not in a position to buy all 7,500 leads on a monthly basis. It's going to run you, probably $1 per lead, $1 to $1.20 per lead. So let's say $8,000 a month. Okay. You can be there within a few months if you do it the right way, though. But the whole point is, let's say there's 7,500 leads available. You might want to buy 500 of them to start and test your market. Okay. And then once you understand the numbers, and I'll explain what the numbers are in just a minute, then you scale up. So from 500, you might want to start buying 1,000, then 2,000, and 3,000. And once you milk that lead source and you can't spend any more money on a monthly basis on that lead source, you just continue to buy that particular lead source, and then you tap into another lead source, and then you milk that lead source. And that's how you go from doing, let's say, 2 deals a month to 20, 30, 40 deals a month. Okay, all you do is you milk the lead source, and then you tap into other lead sources and milk that lead source. Okay, but just kind of going back, I don't want to confuse anybody, but just kind of going back to, scaling your market up a little bit. Okay, again, most people on a call are probably going to be in a position to send out a small amount of marketing pieces in order to get calls. Here's the key to scaling your marketing up. Okay, let's say you're in a position right now to send out 1,000 leads. Okay, I was just talking to a friend of mine the other day, and he asked me for some help in the Kansas City market. Now, again, I've never been to Kansas City, but he told me enough about the market to where I can help him scale his business up a little bit. So basically, he told me that he sent out 1,000 letters. Out of 1,000 letters, he got a 15% response rate. Now, that's average. I usually get a 10 to 30% response rate on a letter that I send. Again, you can get that from Zach. Okay, so he got a 15% response rate with my letter that I gave to him. So that's 150 phone calls from 1,000 letters. Okay, now from that 150 phone calls, he actually spoke to 100 of those people. So 10% of the actual gross number that he sent out, which it's not too shabby. What would you say, Jason?
I would say that's really good, man.
Really good. Now, here's the kicker, though. From that 100 people that he's actually spoken to, these are long-winded conversations, only 8 of them were actually motivated sellers that he could have turned into a deal. And out of that 8, he had 4 deals that he was able to put on the contract. So what is that, a 4% response rate from that 10, which is less than 1% of the amount of letters that he actually sent out. But here's the thing: he spent $1,200 for those letters. Okay, and from that $1,200, the average deal was about $5,000. He created $20,000 in profit.
Nice.
And you think that's a nice turnaround right there?
That's a really great turnaround.
Exactly. Now here's the kicker, though. Here's the kicker. There's 30,000 absentee owners in Kansas City. He only tapped into 1,000 of them. So what does he do? He takes 20% of that money, or even up to 40% of that money. Let's say $8,000. And he buys more leads. So now instead of 1,000 people he's tapping into, from $8,000, he could tap into another 7,500 people. So if those numbers continue to ring true, he's at, let's say, 7,500 people. 10% of that is 750. From 750, if you take 4%, how many deals is that? I don't have a calculator.
What was the numbers?
750 times 0.04.
So about 30.
About 30 deals. And if you're averaging $5,000 a deal, that's $150,000 for spending $8,000.
That's that's a good
that's
ROI.
That's a great ROI. And I'm not saying it's going to happen for everybody, but that's just to give you an idea of how to scale your business up. Because if you're at $150,000 in profit and you take 20% of that, you can basically milk the rest of the lead source and really clean up from that point out and start going into the next lead source. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay.
Sounds good. So this is the responsive seller criteria that I personally use. It works like gangbusters. I've built a business over it, and I've been in a business since 2002, and I've been able to basically milk just about every lead source that in every market that I've tapped into. Okay. Now, again, this works all the time. We're no longer in a depreciating market. This is not 2009 anymore. Houses are actually gaining equity again, which is great. Buyers are coming out of the woodworks. They're coming out of their hiding places to buy more properties. That's why the Boston market was so hot. People are actually buying houses these days. The market is appreciating. Houses are selling faster and for more money these days as well. This is a great rehab market. So you'll find that a lot of the buyers you come across are rehabbers. Okay, I'm a rehabber myself. I know, Jason, you rehab some deals as well. Would you say that this is a great rehab market?
Especially
depending on where you are, obviously.
Our market is, certain parts of our central Indiana are actually really good.
Yeah. And it's going to be the same everywhere pretty much. But the difference is you can still get out there and get these houses for pennies on a dollar. Okay? At pretty much the same prices that you were able to even when the market was down. Okay? In a lot of cases. So, the object is to just get out there and take action. Now, I do this obviously by reverse engineering the whole process. I came up with a little formula. I call it REI, reverse engineered investing. So what that stands for is qualifying the market through the buyers, find properties and match them to the most qualified prospect, and then basically close the deal and make money. So reverse engineered investing, REI, thought you would get a little kicker out of it.
Nice.
So let's talk about reverse engineered investing in a 5-step process. Okay. Number one, you qualify a market. This is everything we just covered. I'm going to go through it so you can see it in real time now. Okay. So qualify a market first, then you get sellers calling you in that market. Then you go ahead and choose the best deals available. And you sell the properties to a herd of buyers that you're going to build up in advance. Then you basically have the title company or attorney close the deal and you get paid. That's the 5-step process to making money within the next few weeks for you. So let's talk about step number 1, qualifying your market. So first, again, you find buyers that recently purchased in that area, and you have them tell you exactly what they want. Excuse me. And I basically gave you those 4 main questions that you want to ask earlier on the training. And then here's an example. And I took a screenshot of this a little while back. But these are just some of the buyers that, came through my personal website. There's pages and pages and pages of these buyers. And, this is a screenshot I was able to, over the past couple months, I was able to pick up. It was actually higher than this right now. This is actually an old screenshot, but it's 348 on this particular screenshot that I've built up in a new market. Okay. Once you are in contact with the buyers, if you're using a website, then basically you'll notice that this is the information that you want to collect from the buyer. So what types of properties are you currently purchasing? What price range have you recently purchased properties in? What areas are you interested in? Can you pay cash? Any other details? How fast can you close? Now, this particular buyer said that they were interested in single-family and multi-unit properties, $40,000 to $180,000 in that particular market. They'll buy anywhere, and they can pay cash. Now, if you looked at this buyer, Jason, would you say that this is a pretty decent buyer?
Oh, most definitely.
Most definitely. And then basically all you do is take that information and you qualify your market with it. So you get sellers calling you. So again, I personally like to use yellow letters. I like Craigslist, and I like attention-grabbing bandit signs. There's a lot of other methods that I use in order to drive sellers, but for most people on this call, this is pretty much all you need right now, besides a realtor who can send you really good deals as well. Okay?
Awesome.
My top 5 lead sources, again, are absentee-owned properties, which is kind of the umbrella of it all. Free and clear and out-of-state property owners as well. I absolutely love probate and inherited properties. Fire damage properties are some of my biggest deals outside of inherited properties, and then code violated properties is great as well. Okay. I don't know if I have time to show you my lead sheet. How much time do we have, Jason?
That's up to you, buddy.
Okay, so let's go ahead and let me show you my lead sheet here, just to kind of give you an example of how my team sorts things. Let me just open up Google Drive, get to Mill Street Properties here. Really organized, you know what I mean? Rehab analysis stuff, hiring procedures, properties, the team. One thing about a team as well, you want to hire A players. So you're constantly, you might have a solid team, but you're constantly looking for more people to put them on a back burner. Because you're going to have A players, you're going to have B players, and you're going to have C players. C players, you kind of want to avoid like the plague. They're kind of just there just in case you need them.
Right.
B players are not as sharp as A players, but they're a little better than C players. And then you got those A players who are just rock stars. And if you want to build a real business, you have to hire rock stars. Because if you have, 5 or maybe even 6 different rock stars on your team, and, you can scale up pretty quickly. Is that true or false, Jason?
That I would say true for sure.
Absolutely. So just going into my lead sheet here, you can see we color coordinate pretty much everything. Just looking at some of the recent properties. Today is the 13th, so a couple of days ago we received some properties. But you can see that these properties are color coordinated. So you'll see that you have purple means offer not accepted and house sold. Yellow offer not accepted, and resubmit in 30 days. And these are only the Pennsylvania properties, by the way. These are not the Boston properties, et cetera, et cetera. We separate each sheet, okay? Green means submit offer ASAP. Blue means offer accepted. Orange, deal was bought and closed. Red, interested, not interested. And no color, which are these down here, means no one actually got back in touch with them yet. Or they just haven't spoken to the seller yet. New property that wasn't looked at. Okay, so that's my lead sheet.
Very
On
cool.
the lead sheet, you can see that we have a timestamp. We have an agent. How did you hear about us? We always want to know where our money is being spent and where we're getting the best results. We got the seller name, the email, the phone, property address, property description. We use Zillow and Trulia, to get a rough idea of what a property is worth. So we'll add that link and that estimate in this particular column here. We don't use these for accurate comps. We use these to just basically get a ballpark idea of how much the property is worth. Okay. Repair estimates needed. Why do you want to sell? How fast are you looking to sell? The asking price. So you look at this particular one right here at the bottom. $30,000 asking price. It only needs about $10,000 in work. So why did we select it as a green property? Let's see how much the property is worth. Throwing us in a ballpark, this estimate is $83,000, $82,000. Again, we're not looking for accurate numbers, but we're looking to be thrown in a ballpark. Okay, so this tells us that we could take it to the next step and basically do more research before we actually make an offer on that particular property. Okay, so again, you got an $82,000 house they're asking $30,000 for. It needs $10,000 in work. Do you think that's a deal, Jason?
Absolutely.
Worth taking a look at?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. So again, this is kind of our Mayo formula. 50 cents on a dollar will leave us at, 9. Hold on a second. Let me look at this. Okay. So you got the Mayo formula. It basically calculates 50, 55, 60, 65, and 70 cents on a dollar. I typically like to purchase properties at 60 cents on a dollar minus repairs. So 60 cents on a dollar of the asking price would be about $14,000. And then what we do is we subtract the repairs off of that. Okay, so let's say just, looking at a $100,000 house, if we want to pick up the property at a decent price, 60,000. What we typically do is we'll multiply 60% of the comparable sales price minus the repairs. So let's say the average $100,000 house needed $10,000 in work. We will be picking that property up at 50 cents on a dollar. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so just kind of moving forward a little bit. I know we're getting crunched on time, but I have all the time in the world right now. It's snowing outside. But I don't want to bore you guys either. So step number 3 is to choose the best deal. So we just kind of went through that spreadsheet a little bit. And this is Sama's position. Basically, Sama is located in Texas. Basically, all she does is call. All calls go to voicemail once they come in. From the marketing pieces, she returns all the calls. She pre-screens the seller and she enters them into the property spreadsheet that I just showed you. Okay, and then from there, Regina takes over. And Regina, basically, she'll look at the property spreadsheet every single day. She'll pick the best deals, after going through the numbers. She'll give properties a color. Okay, as you can see, we run a color system. She'll run preliminary comps. She'll call the sellers back and she'll view the properties and make offers, preliminary offers on the property. So whenever she makes an offer, basically she's making an offer contingent upon seeing the property. If the seller is going to bite on the offer she's going to make over the phone, then 9 times out of 10 we're going to get that deal. Okay, because then we're going to send the field agent out to take a look at the property, get everything situated with the pictures and everything. We're going to make a more accurate offer from that point out, and we're in a power position at that point because now we can tie the deal up and ultimately get it sold. Okay, so here's an example of a property that I sold a few months back, 706 Reading Avenue. This is a great example of what a motivated seller is. Okay, and I actually copied this directly off that sheet that you just saw. Okay, so 706 Reading Avenue, so West Reading, PA, 4-bedroom, 1 bath. It was actually a 5-bedroom, 1 bath. When we went to go take a look at the property, it needed a lot of work. It needed about $40,000 in work. The asking price was $50,000. There was no mortgage. It appraised for $90,000 in the condition that it was in. Okay, now here's the thing. After running the comps on Zillow, we saw that the house was worth about $120,000. All right, so the appraiser said it was worth $90,000. Even at $90,000, this guy is asking $50,000. To me, that's a deal. Okay, owner is living there right now. Well, he was. He moved. He got an apartment because we bought the house from him. His parents used to own the house. They both passed away, which makes it a probate deal. It needs work. He doesn't want to spend the time. He's old. He's about 58 years old. He doesn't want to. That's not old. I probably shouldn't say that that's old. That's actually still pretty young. But he was getting older than me. Okay, I'm 33 years old. Or I'll be 33 in a few weeks. But he's not old. Let me take that back. Laugh, guys. But so he's an older gentleman who basically he was in a wheelchair. He said, you know what, I don't want to live in this house anymore, and he wanted to get rid of it within a 30-day time frame. Looking at this lead, now I know, Jason, you're an experienced investor. Would you say that this is a really qualified seller, somebody that you could probably make some money on this property with?
Absolutely. Sounds extremely motivated.
And that's exactly what he was. I ended up, at the end of the day, we made an offer for $40,000. He said no. Okay, so we met in the middle at $45,000, and I got the deal. Nice. Ended up selling it within probably it took us, I want to say 10 days to actually get a signed agreement on it for $55,000. Walked away with $10,000. Not bad. So here's what you're looking for from these properties, and you'll notice the similarities between this particular information that I received from my spreadsheet and these bullets that I'm going to show you right now. Number one, physically distressed properties are best, if you ask me. You might disagree, but those have always been the best deals for me. I'm not a big fan of financially distressed deals like short sales and stuff like that. It takes way too long to make money. I like money now. So I like focusing on physically distressed properties. Again, that's just my personal preference. It works best for me. Usually you can spot a physically distressed property if you see stuff like needs TLC, needs work, etc. Okay? Asking price is lower than your comp price. So again, if you have, let's say, if you're in an area where the average house is comping at $100,000 and the owner is asking for $50,000, then you're probably right in the money. Look at this particular owner. He told me that the appraisal that he got was, it showed $90,000. The comps that I pulled were higher than that, and he was only asking for $50,000. That's a killer deal right there.
That is.
We jumped all over it. And here's the kicker. He had other investors interested in it. The thing was, he liked me the best. He liked working with my company the best. So you make them feel special. You treat them like you want to be treated. Most of these investors, unfortunately, people go in there and they're arrogant about the whole situation. But you treat people the way you want to be treated. If you take care of people, you provide good customer service. Even though they're not, they're a customer, but not necessarily a customer, more of a client. You make them feel special, and just understand the situation that they're in, and understand that you are a problem solver. You're there to actually help them and not harm them further. If you just keep that in mind, it doesn't matter, what you do. You're constantly going to get referrals. You're constantly going to make money, and you're constantly going to have a good reputation in the area. Okay, so you want to build up that type of reputation. You want to treat people the way you want to be treated, and treat, especially older gentlemen, older families. You want to treat them like you would treat your parents. You know what I mean? And that's key. Forget about everything. If you forget about everything that I showed you today, and you just remember that part of this particular call, you treat people the way you want to be treated, and you'll go a lot further than anybody else who's in your business. Is that right or wrong?
I would tell you the first deal that I did ever. This was ever. The main reason I got the deal was because I was, just completely honest. I was just myself. Spoke to him just like any other family member. It was a probate deal, and I came in there, spoke to him. I actually offered less than my competition, and he wanted to do business with me, and it was my first deal. And you just got to go in there, own it, be confident. And, I'm not the type of person to be arrogant or cocky. There's a difference between being confident and arrogant and cocky. But, they trusted me. We closed. They got their money. They wanted to move out, and they needed to split the money 3 ways. The house was free and clear. So it was a great first transaction. Just goes a long way, especially if you treat people the right way.
It's kind of funny. This same seller just referred someone to me not so long ago. The house is worth, I want to say, $300,000, and I'm still working on communicating with the seller right now, who is really excited about doing business with me, just from what this particular owner right here said about me. So
nice.
That lead didn't cost me anything. That's the point. It's a referral, but it was all because of the way I treated that seller. So treat people the way you want to be treated, and you'll go a long way if you want to be treated the right way.
Right.
So again, usually these properties have a lot of equity. This particular owner, just looking back, he didn't have a mortgage. You can see it right there. And the seller is motivated. What was his motivation level? He wanted to get rid of the property within 30 days. So if you take all of these bullet points and you go out there and you sort through all of your leads that you have or that you receive, I can almost guarantee, and I don't like to use that word a lot because each market is different, but if you search for this particular criteria within your leads, you're going to find something, and you're going to make some money on that lead. Okay?
Absolutely.
Moving forward, the next step, what I typically do is if the market is out of state, like out of Pennsylvania, I usually use a flex option before I go ahead and sign a purchase agreement. And the reason I do that is because it kind of leaves it open for the seller as well as myself. It's an option that I'm taking out on the property. And it doesn't really tie the seller down totally, and it doesn't tie me down totally. It basically allows me to market that property. And then once the flex option is, once I have a buyer, then I'll go ahead and sign another agreement, which the seller and the flex option that I use is basically agreeing to signing a regular agreement, once I find a buyer. Then we go ahead and sign this agreement and then move on. If it's in my local market, or if it's a really high deal that I don't want anybody else touching, I'm going to sign a regular purchase and sell agreement and call it a day. And I have one-page agreements that I use. Okay. Number 4, is to go out there and basically get that property sold. And again, that's Amanda at this point. Email blast, text blast, signs within a 3 to 5 block radius of the property, newspaper ads. Believe it or not, we're in an internet day and age, but newspaper ads sells properties, period. They're a little expensive. It might cost you $100, but would you spend $100 to make $5 grand?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Online postings, Craigslist, Backpage, and then create JV partners, other wholesalers in the area who have buyers lists if you don't have one. You have a property, you have the asset, go to them, combine your assets together, and see if you can split the money, 50-50. Now, I was just talking to my office manager, Matt, this morning, and I basically told him, look, in this business, in any business, half a loaf is always better than none, number one.
Yep.
For number two, the problem with a lot of investors is they're greedy. We all want to make the most amount we can make on a deal. But if you have the opportunity of making some money and it's not exactly what you wanted, let's say you wanted $10,000 and you're only able to get $7,500, are you going to pout about it, or are you going to take the $7,500, move on to the next deal? By the time you fight to get that extra $2,500, you're going to be doing 3, 4, 5 other deals.
Right.
So you got to kind of think about that. Me, I'm all about getting it done, moving on to the next one. Let's get another one under the belt. Let's speed the process up. So you can utilize joint venture partners in order to sell your properties, and you can go a long way just by splitting the money with them 50-50. So that's just my take on that.
Very cool.
And once you find a buyer, you go ahead and you sign a standard assignment of agreement of sale. Okay, so you're basically going to assign your contract that you have with the seller over to your buyer. You're going to collect double the amount that you had to put down. So, typically I don't put anything down on these properties, but you still want to collect a minimum of at least $1,000. If you put down $500, collect double. If you put down 1,000, collect 2,000. If you put down 2,000, collect 4,000. If you didn't put down anything, collect 1,000 minimum. Okay, and then you basically send them through the closing process. You assign a contract, set up the closing. Title company or attorney will run title. If you're in an attorney state, like let's say New York, you have to go through an attorney to get all of this done. Okay, if you're not in an attorney state, then you can basically sign the agreements with the seller. Okay, but you would still want to send them through the title company. You want to run the title. I think out of all my years doing real estate, I've only ever done one deal without using a title company myself, where the buyer and I, we actually went down to City Hall and closed the deal at City Hall ourselves.
Nice.
There was only ever one deal I've ever done like that. But I bought that house for $1,500 and sold it for $8 grand, so I didn't care. And then what you want to do at that point is wait for the title, wait for the closing, and get paid. And that's all I got today. And that's pretty much all I have, unless you guys have any questions. There's a ton of information, a ton of articles and stuff like that. If you want to, contact us, you can go to reieducationacademy.com. Again, you can, have all kinds of, free information there, newsletters, all kinds of stuff. Go ahead to reieducationacademy.com if you want more information. And at this point, Jason, I am ready to take some questions.
Awesome. Jamel, great job. I appreciate the presentation. That was fantastic, man. And guys, I highly recommend you go over to Jamel's blog, reieducationacademy.com. I've gone over there. There's tons of content on there. A lot of great information, like especially if you're either getting started or you're a veteran. Tons of great information to help out any level of expertise in this business. So without further ado, let me go ahead and see if we have some questions. If you guys would like to ask Jamel some questions, let's go ahead and get some of those right now. Brett says, great to see your system laid out. For someone new, what would you suggest they do first to head in that direction?
The very first thing you want to do is, number one, there's a couple of things there's a couple of ways I would actually answer that. But one, decide on what your budget is for your business. A lot of people, jump into this business and they expect it to be. I mean, yeah, you can buy real estate with no money, no credit, et cetera, et cetera. That is absolutely true. What a lot of people do is they fail to realize that this is a business. So eventually you're going to have to reinvest back into that business if you want to create an enterprise, okay? Or if you want to create a real business. Think franchise. Franchises, they spend money up front in order to build a business, and ultimately it's an investment vehicle that will allow them to create, the lifestyle that they want. Same thing with real estate investing. Eventually you're going to want to reinvest some of your profits back into your business. So if you're starting out right now, I would highly suggest you learn the business, number one, through, education like you're doing right now, but also spend some money on marketing and finding more and more leads as opposed to building a team. Once you close your first deal, take maybe 20% of that, put it back into more marketing. Take another 10% of that and put it towards a budget for hiring your first virtual assistant. You can literally, I have rock stars on my team. I'm paying $8 an hour for my acquisitions manager. I paid $25 a week for Sama to call all of these seller leads back. I pay, I'm just throwing some numbers out there. I pay $6 an hour. And it's not to say that they're working 8 hours a day consistently, but for the time that they're working, I mean, let's say they only put in 15 hours a week. Let's take my acquisitions manager. She only put in 15 hours a week. That's only $115 a week that I'm actually paying at what is that? $7 an hour?
Yeah.
So just think like that. So hire one person that you can afford to pay who can be a rock star. You might have to interview 10 people, but if you post on like Elance or Odesk.com, you'll find rock star people who can handle that position.
Absolutely.
And that's exactly where I hired my people from, Odesk and Elance. So reinvest some of that money into hiring your first person, because if you can recreate yourself, now you have two of you with the same common goal. That means you're going to get to where you want to go twice as fast. Make sense?
Yeah, and Jamel, just to kind of piggyback off what you said, especially for finding buyer leads, one thing you could do is you could find a individual on Elance or Odesk that really has an expert level with dealing with Craigslist, and you could have them post specific ads in certain markets, and you could build up a cash buyers database relatively pretty fast. Remember, you could have a database of 5,000, 10,000 supposed buyers, but as long as you have the one or two that are going to be consistently buying from you, that's really all that it matters.
Me personally, Jason, I got probably 15,000, 20,000 cash buyers.
Mm-hmm.
That's not like that has nothing to do with the REI Education Academy. None of that stuff.
Yeah.
I have 20,000 actual buyers nationwide. I probably do business with 5 of them.
Yep. So yeah, right there, Jamel said it best. Proof is in the pudding. All you need to do is if you're just wanting to stay kind of local right now, you're not wanting to get up to, a really high level. All you really need is just a few. And what I'd recommend is just, have 15 to 20 people you could reach out to whenever you get a slam dunk deal like Jamel's been showing. And the 15 to 20 will come relatively pretty fast. Moving on to the next question, and thank you, Brett, for asking. We've got a question from Mike, and he was asking, how can I find an investor-friendly title company in my area?
An easy way to do it, well, there's a couple of easy ways to do it. Number one, you can talk to other investors in the area and see who they're using, or you can go down to your local REI club and ask. That's two simple, easy ways you could find it today if you really just implemented that. The easiest way for me, because if you wanted to do it like today, contact some other investors that you know, or if you don't know any, get in contact with some other people, or even some title. Well, you're looking for title companies. Get in contact with some other investors and see who they're using. Yeah. Just ask. You'll be surprised to see how responsive some people are and how helpful other investors are amongst each other.
Yeah, and another thing that I would just kind of say as well, once you start doing some business, I would reach out to maybe some investor-friendly realtors that are closing transactions with title companies. You can get referrals that way. That's how I've been closing my deals, is basically all off of other investors, referrals, and realtor referrals. And the thing is, once you start getting in with some of these title companies, you could be like, a great way, this is how I found some of our private lenders is, but you could ask, hey, do you know of anybody that's currently, lending out any private funds for, real estate investor transactions? You'll be completely blown away with how many people you'll be able to find through just a title company. You could, and the people that I found, they weren't even here local. The people that were doing private lending were out of state. So yeah, I would highly recommend, once you find that title company, it's always good to maybe have 1, 2, or 3 title companies, mainly having 60% of your transactions going to one place. I would never have my eggs all in one basket, though. I would make sure to have it spread out. I would be sending most of my business to one that I really like, 60, 70%, and then evenly distributing the rest to the other 2, just to be on the safe side. You never know when, a title company might do something and they upset you, and you can be like, you know what, I'll take my business elsewhere, and you already have that, relationship established.
It's so funny that you mentioned that. My very first private money lender came through a relationship I had with another investor. He actually introduced me because I was asking him. Now, it took her a little bit of time for me to establish a relationship with her, but for the most part, she basically became a solid private money. It still is a solid private money lender today, because of me asking, that initial investor,
right?
Did he know of anyone in the area?
Yeah, and it might be a hard money lender, it might be a private money lender, or both. You just have to keep asking. And I ran into hard money lenders. The one thing too is my credit when I first got started was terrible, and I really didn't have. I tell the story if anybody's heard it. Like, I was literally on unemployment and had like maybe $5-10 in my bank account when I closed my first deal. And then when I closed my second deal, I maybe had $1,500 in my bank account, because they were kind of close together. But the second deal was pretty big. It was like probably a $26,000 profit.
It changed it.
Yeah, it changed a whole lot. So, you're going to have your $1,500, $2,500 deals, but what you're gaining off of that on top of the money is the experience. So the more deals you can close, the more creatively you'll start thinking. And that's one of the things with Jamel and I. We do have expertise in closing transactions, but if it really came down to, hey, we need to get creative on this, the experience kicks in at that point. We're like, okay, we could do this, this, and this. So it really does help out.
Mm-hmm. I'm sorry about that. Go ahead, man.
Oh, you're fine. No, I was done.
I was gonna say, it's just, that's so true, man. Especially in this business, if you're looking at, let's say, wholesale or whatever the case may be, you're going to get more base hits, and then once in a while you'll get that home run. If you like baseball, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. You're going to get some singles, some doubles. You're even going to get some triples. Then once in a while you're going to get that home run. But just always remember those singles and doubles add up.
Yep.
To those home runs. So you're going to get a lot of those. Take advantage of them. So again, like Jason was saying, you're going to get those $1,000 deals. You're going to get those $1,500 deals, those $3,000 deals, and then you'll get that $48,000 deal. But by the time you get that $48,000 deal, you've already closed a ton of transactions that added up to a decent amount of money anyway. And then that 48 grand is just the home run on top. It's just the icing on the cake.
Yeah.
So just, don't be greedy. That's what it's all about.
Right. Right. No, I completely hear you. Well, guys, do we have any other questions? It looks like, Jamel went over quite a bit of great information. So I think he pretty much answered a lot of questions as he was going through. But it looks like we're not having a whole lot of questions coming on top of this, which is a good sign. And guys, again, reminder, this is being recorded, so you'll be able to see it again at a later date. And I'll make sure to send out an email for that. You could, have it as maybe weekend. Spend. I think this was about an hour and a half of great content. And if I had to start completely over again, it would be exactly like this method. So it's great. Wholesaling is always going to be a key. Once you start wholesaling for deals, then you can maybe start doing some rehabs. You could start doing some buy and hold strategies. It just opens the door to so many things after you get it, your 2, 3, 4 deals completed. So glad you guys made it on here, and it was great. Jamel, is there any final things you'd like to say, buddy?
Oh, not at all. Well, you know what? If I had to leave right now and leave you with these words, it would be to get out there and take massive action if you want massive success. And always remember that, there's going to be some barriers along the way. Nothing comes that easy. If it sounds too good to be true, it usually is, but not in all cases, because you really can make money within the next few weeks if you implement these strategies.
Yep.
And at the end of the day, again, just remember that there will be barriers. You might, a little analogy that I like to use is you might be going, think about it in terms of life and death. Okay. If you're at home right now and you needed to get to an emergency room, and you get in your car, you start the car, and you drive down road number 1, but there's a tree down and it's blocking you from getting to the emergency room, are you going to stop and pout and just sit there and die? Or are you going to go ahead and find another way? And then you go down road number 2 and there's a big pothole and no car can pass, or the bridge is broken down, or whatever the case may be. Are you going to sit, or are you going to pout and just sit there and just let your life pass away? Or are you going to find another way? Because if you go down road number 3, there may be a clear path for you to get to that emergency room and save your life. And if you look at this business in the same manner as a life-changing and even in some cases a life-saving business, because it absolutely saved and changed my life.
Yep.
Even with the barriers that I had to jump over, the hurdles, I would do it all over again. I'm not going to sit and I'm not going to I'm not going to let things dictate life for me. I'm going to go down, I'm going to find that third road, that clear path to where I want to go. And for me, real estate investing was it. So if I had to leave you today and I said, I hope you become successful, what I'm saying is find your path, get down that road, that clear path. Understand that there will be barriers, but if you take action, you will become successful. If it doesn't happen today, it will eventually happen. Just stick to it.
Awesome. No, great advice. And, Love the beginning part there. That's definitely true New Yorker in you, especially. I hear that constantly from the Donald. So,
Yep.
if you're going to take action, you might as well be massive about it, and you might as well be thinking big as well. So, love the New Yorker out of you on that. But Jamel, and all I have to say is thank you. This was content-rich, awesome filled information. But yeah, it was great information, buddy. I really appreciate you taking time, spending time away from that blizzard, and really giving some great info and insight on what you're doing. That really means a lot to all of us. And guys, thanks for your time. We will be doing another one of these here very soon. Any feedback, constructive or positive, is always welcomed on how we can make things better or do something differently for you. So again, have a great have a great day. Everybody have a great Valentine's Day if you're going to be doing something, and also have a great weekend. We'll talk to you soon. Take care. Thanks again, Jamel.
Thanks, Jason.